almost like the Flashpoint, where it starts, one of the key matrix lines that will help shatter this status centralized system.
Just waking up in the morning, gotta thank God. I don't know, but today seems kinda odd.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Monday, July 30th, 2012, and this is Flashpoint Radio. Thank you for joining me. I am your host, Jay-Z, back from a vacation in Idaho, where I broke my arm, or my elbow, in an ATV accident. Injury is not that bad, actually. It turned out to be a lot better than it could have been. So I'm doing fine, just have a little bit of time off and a little bit of rehab to do. But it's good to be back. I was up in the air on whether or not I was going to cover the James Holmes Aurora shooting that happened while I was gone. I've decided to sort of cover it. I'm not going to cover it in detail. I'm not going to cover the conspiracies, the questions that should be asked, and the inconsistencies with the stories. You should do your own research on that, and we do not have any right to that information. We're not victims. I believe as outside observers and as citizens of this country, we should spread knowledge and spread the quest for the truth. Therefore, or in the case of another event like this happening, some victim might be able to ask questions. There may be an info warrior or a truth seeker that was a victim and has the right to ask the authorities for the truth. But we just don't have that right to demand these answers as of yet. Now, if a final verdict is drawn and this book is closed and it is original story from the get-go, then maybe we can ask some questions, or at least we can get some people that have the right to ask those questions. I may go into some detail in the future on that subject. There are a lot of questions that I have to ask, and there are a lot of fishy characters involved in this situation, but that's not what we're going to focus on. We're going to focus on the response from our political operatives, our elected officials, and from the media. We'll start this evening from Infowars.com. Obama claims Second Amendment about hunting and gun control stunt. This is a video version of Flashpoint Radio. I will not be reading. I will be letting people do their own talking for them. So let's see what our good old President Barry Soetoro had to say in New Orleans at a National Urban League conference last week.
I, like most Americans, believe that the Second Amendment guarantees an individual the right to bear arms. I think we recognize the traditions of gun ownership that passed on from generation to generation, that hunting and shooting are part of a cherished national heritage. But I also believe that a lot of gun owners would agree that AK-47s belong in the hands of soldiers, not in the hands of criminals.
Yeah, he recognizes the tradition of gun ownership, and he believes in the Second Amendment, but he recognizes the tradition of hunting and shooting. Yes, this is the new narrative that's been around for quite some time, that is pushed every time something like this happens, that the Second Amendment was put in place so citizens could protect themselves from criminals and shoot deer. There's nothing further from the truth. We will see at the end of this episode why we need the true meaning of the Second Amendment and why it needs not be infringed upon. But this article from Infowars.com as well, why are Republicans calling to disarm the American people, has a lot of links to video and audio of some unusual sources coming out against the Second Amendment, or at least in strengthening gun control in this country. Let's get right to it, though, and look at what Michael Savage had to say. Michael Savage, talk show host, pundit, so-called conservative. Let's see what he has to say.
I don't give a damn what you think about me. I am telling you that that man had no right, and the country has no right, rather, to permit any single individual, not a member of police force, to buy a drum magazine. What in the world is this all about? That's what I have to say.
In that short clip, listen to the entire clip. It's crazy. He doesn't believe you have many rights at all, but he said he doesn't believe that we have a right to own 100-round drums for our AR-15s. I don't see any problem with that. If you believe in the Second Amendment as it was written to protect us from the government, then yes, 100 drum magazines is what we should He goes on to say that we only need 10-round magazines. And the fact that he had a 100-round drum is the reason this happened. So thank you, Michael Savage, for showing your true colors. Moving right along to Bill Kristol of the Weekly Standard. We already know he's a neocon warhawk who will never actually side with our founders. But this is what he had to say on Fox News Sunday.
I think people have a right to handguns and hunting rifles. I don't think they have a right to semi-automatic quasi-machine guns that can shoot 100 bullets at a time. And I actually think the Democrats are being foolish as they're being cowardly. I think there is more support for some moderate forms of gun control if they separate it clearly from a desire to take away everyone's handguns or hunting rifles.
Guns that shoot hundreds of rounds of ammo at a time. You, my friend, obviously have never held a gun in your life. You do not know what a firearm is. You have not even a rudimentary understanding of what firearms are. The AR-15 that the gentleman had fires 1 round at a time. You could maybe fire 60 rounds a minute. Maybe. That's if you can pull the trigger 1 time in a second. You can't. I have an AR-15. You can't. I, in fact, have every gun that gentleman used in that attack, or supposedly used in that attack, in my arsenal. But no, Bill Kristol, you're wrong. Those aren't machine guns that he used. These are simple rifles, semi-automatic rifles, but he wants to restrict ammo limits. And let's look at Bill O'Reilly, that bastion of freedom, that man who's standing against the liberal agenda and the biased media at MSNBC and Barack Obama and Chucky Schumer. Let's see what he had to say.
But it also makes sense for Congress to pass a new law that requires the sale of all heavy weapons to be reported to the FBI. In this age of terrorism, that law is badly needed.
Giving the FBI a master list of everybody who owns weapons in this country is not the right direction.
I said heavy weapons, all right? Mortars, howitzers, machine guns. Here's my deal, and you tell me where I'm wrong. If you sell heavy weaponry, all right, semi-automatics, automatics, ammunition, all you do is you file with the FBI. And this doesn't intrude on any hunter, anybody with a handgun to protect himself,
sure
anybody with a rifle. This
Absolutely
is an AK. Come on.
This is the Second Amendment.
Oh, he only wants to record when you buy guns like this. He seems to think that an AK-47, because it was a Russian manufactured rifle and used by terrorists, well, you know, we funded those terrorists, so they bought those AK-47s, Al-Qaeda did, with our money to fight the Russians. He seems to think that since it's an AK-47 and used in Rambo movies by the bad guys, that it's a machine gun and heavy armament. Representative Chaffetz from Utah stood up to him and said, yes, you are uninformed. Watch the entire interview. Chaffetz needs to be applauded. He is a actual upstanding member of our elected representatives, and he believes in the Second Amendment as it was written. But no, Bill O'Reilly, that is not a machine gun. There are checks to keep us from buying fully automatic weapons and rocket launchers. It's called the federal tax stamp that they require you get. So yeah, the government doesn't really care as long as you pay an extra tax. It's usually how the government works. This is the scary part. Well, sort of. This is Anthony Scalia, a Supreme Court justice, weighing in on the topic.
The amendment does not apply to arms that cannot be hand-carried. It's to keep and bear, so it doesn't apply to cannons. But I suppose there are handheld rocket launchers that can bring down airplanes that will have to be, it'll have to be decided.
How do you decide that if you're a textualist?
Very carefully.
I don't know what to say about that. I guess he says that right now it's legal to own a rocket launcher. I'm pretty sure that it's not, but I guess if you can carry it, it's your right to bear arms. No, my friend. The right to bear arms in a well-regulated militia is meant to protect us from a tyrannical government. I'm not sure how a handgun is going to protect us from a military, so I tend to think that, yeah, I don't care what you have whatever you want. If you use it in a criminal fashion, you are prosecuted. That's what criminal codes are for. But he stated that the Supreme Court more than likely will be weighing in on this situation in the near future. And well, after what happened with Obamacare and our 5-4 conservative court, you can expect some sort of gun control to be upheld by those in power. And well, while I don't really believe that gun control is what they're going for, they may try for it. It's a little bit scary to see Republicans, calling for a reinstatement of the assault weapons ban, a ban on high-capacity magazines and the such, internet sales of ammunition. I don't believe that's the end result. I don't believe that's what the government is going for. And these people, don't get me wrong, are all agents of the government. Doesn't matter if they work for Fox News or MSNBC. They're agents of the government. I think this is the stated goal and the reason they're using this event, whether or not it's staged or it happened as they said. Infowars.com, phantom IEDs to finish off Posse Comitatus. Yeah. So Lieutenant General Michael Barbero, head of military's Joint Improvised Explosive Device Defeat Organization, told partially closed House Committee that terrorists with IEDs now threaten the United States, and local law enforcement should have access to military-trained professionals that deal with IEDs, improvised explosive devices, and that there's no reason that police forces should not be able to call in the military in case our government plants a fake bomb. It's called Posse Comitatus. It's to prevent the military from operating on the streets of America, because we can protect ourselves against a tyrannical police force. It's kind of hard to protect yourself against an M1 Abrams tank. But I think that's the goal. The end of Posse Comitatus. U.S. Army purchases riot gears as fears over civil unrest grows, from Infowars.com as well. DHS has purchased a bunch of riot control gear to be used in case of civil disturbances. Yes, what are they planning? We've gone over that on Flashpoint Radio for quite some time, that something is coming, and it more than likely is martial law and a repeal of Posse Comitatus. And well, how about a propaganda video to put a period on the end of this Flashpoint Radio and this whole discussion? Out of Houston, the city of Houston produced a DHS, Department of Homeland Security funded video that tells you what to do in case of an active shooter at your workplace. Nowhere in the video does it even mention that you could possibly use a handgun to protect yourself or another, form of weapon. It says you could run, hide, and last case resort, fight. With what? Oh, if you watch the video, yes, a chair and a fire extinguisher. But the most interesting part is the very end of the video, when the authorities are actually brought in to neutralize the threat. Let's see what they look like.
The event is unpredictable and may evolve quickly. The first responders on the scene are not there to evacuate or tend to the injured. They are well trained and are there to stop the shooter.
Wow! That's an office building in Houston, and those are military personnel with fully automatic weapons in full military gear. Yes, that's what they want. They want to be able to bring the military in when a false flag attack happens or an economic collapse comes. Military follows orders. They're very good at following orders. And if the people giving the orders are corrupt and evil, there's a portion of the military that are still going to follow those orders because they want their pension, because they still think they'll have a pension, because they think this corrupt government can stand in the future. It will not stand. I will buy 100-round drums for my AR-15. I will buy thousands of rounds off the internet. I will do all I can. I will buy private sale firearms that the government does not know about, because I believe that the Second Amendment gives us the right to bear arms in order to protect ourselves from the government. And I'm not talking about Great Britain. I'm talking about Washington, D.C. I do not believe in offensive action, but I believe our founders realized that we needed the right to protect ourselves from our own government. The government they created, they knew would eventually become corrupt, and they wrote the Second Amendment, and that's what it means. Jay-Z signing off for Flashpoint Radio. I'll see you soon. God bless, and keep your eyes to the sky.
Halfway home and my page is still blowing up. Today I didn't even have to use my AK. I gotta say it was a good day.